Oh, Seven Citizens Black here from Casa Black Gaming, and today I wanted to discuss a topic that has seemed like it's taken a long time to arrive, but we're now finally close enough, I feel, to where the conversation is ready to be had, and that is about the upcoming Pyro system, and some questions about our current state of things, and what ships and even gameplay features might be needed in order to make our initial push into Pyro even work on a day-to-day basis. But before I jump into this topic, let me first ask that if you like this video or have found yourself back at my channel more than once now, that you please go ahead and like, subscribe, and comment. And if you're keen to take this conversation even further, my Discord is a great place to come and chill, or just to ask questions if you're a newer player who needs direct help. The channel is just now shy of 7,000 subscribers as of me writing this and recording, so come help me push toward my 10K goal for 2023. Alright, and so let's go ahead and jump into this topic. Alright, so for those new players who might not know what Pyro is, here is a brief explanation. Pyro will be the first system we expand to outside of the Stanton system, which is the only current system we have in place that we can actually play in. There are already some great lore videos that you should check out from the Astro historian Paul Shelley, along with further breakdowns from other content creators, so you should definitely search around YouTube and find out more about what this system has to offer and what to expect, because it will not be a pleasant and lawful place like we have with Stanton, and there will be a lot of opportunities for different gameplay than we currently have, with things looking to grow as Pyro is in the game and more development happens. Pyro is almost 3 times the size of Stanton and has 6 planets and only 1 station, which is not a lawfully controlled station, which is the main reason for this video, because we will not have all of the nearby amenities that we're accustomed to having. So to say that the gameplay in Pyro will be very different is not a stretch, which leads me to the next section of this video, where we talk about what the game currently has now versus what we were going to need. So if we just talk about the absolute bare bones things we need in order to play Star Citizen in any system, we need some basics like a place to repair, refuel, and rearm our ships. We also need a place to heal tier 1 injuries, and many ships will not have a jump drive capable of carrying them from the Stanton system to the Pyro system, so in order to reach Pyro, many of our smaller fighters will need to be carried in order to even get there, because a jump drive is not the same as the quantum drive that we currently use in Stanton to move from planet to planet or even around the orbital markers. Now, another amenity needed to make mining feasible would be refineries to take that mined ore to. Now, as far as features desired, it would be very nice to have deep scanning, which allows specific ships to scan one side of the system from the other to locate things or resources. Data running would also be nice to have as a gameplay feature, but not 100% needed. Engineering is another huge thing that would make exploration and combat between the bigger ships more interesting and possibly needed in order to really keep these ships out in the system, because as ship battles go now, things end way too easily and fast, and when you're out in the middle of an expansive system like Pyro, you do not want to simply lose your ship in 5 minutes only to have to travel back from wherever your spawn point will be. Larger ships, which are going to make up a huge bulk of players as they explore, will need to be less fragile and something that can really hang around for those long-term exploration missions or just living off of your ship, which of course brings up other gameplay loops that we're going to touch on near the end of the video. So how do we accomplish some of those needed features if Pyro is so limited with its amenities? Ship features, and thus the players, is the answer. Currently, we have the Starfarer in game, which is a refueling ship that can fly out to other ships, meet up, and with a long arm and nozzle, can refuel other ships, but it's not exactly used that often currently, since refueling can be done in so many places currently, such as stations or at mining outposts. Supposedly in Pyro, we will just have the one station called Ruin Station, which is a cutthroat pirate lawless station where we honestly don't know much about it as far as what it will have in terms of refueling, rearming, or repair services, if at all. But if there is one place that could have those amenities, it could be there. Now, until we hear otherwise, we have been led to believe that the best source of repair, rearming, and refueling will be amongst the players, which presents a problem because we still do not have a rearming or repair ship in the game, which leads me to the first ship that I feel is needed. This is a ship that can actually accomplish both rearming and the repairing of ships, thus fulfilling the basic needs of ships along with that Starfarer. The Vulcan is a 1 to 3 citizen medium ship that will use drones to do repairs. Now pretty much everything about this ship is not even in development currently, from the drones to the full ship repairs to the rearming of other ships. We do have some minor repairs that we can do ourselves with our multi-tool, but nothing to the degree needed to replace wings, missing thrusters, etc. Now we do have vehicle munching on the roadmap that'll be completed possibly 3rd or 4th quarter this year, so might we get more opportunities to repair manually with that? I'm not so sure. But regardless, this will not be sustainable for most and would certainly increase the time it might take to get back out into action, causing players to deviate from their already established gameplay loop to have to go off to be repaired, involving being tractored by the soon to be released SRV, and then maybe scrounging around for parts or possibly using other players to bring you parts, which again would completely take you out of what you were doing on that particular play session. So I don't believe that manual repairs are viable, and so a repair ship is very much needed, and to me the Vulcan makes the most sense to get into the game since it ticks 2 major needed features. Now there is another ship that can also repair. The Anvil Crucible is a flying repair box as described on the RSI website and will feature a pretty cool rotating bridge design, so it can rotate to overlook either of 2 bays where repairs can be made using drones. Again, this relies on tech features not yet in the game since drones are not in there yet and not even on the roadmap. Will they be hard to implement once they start? I don't see that they would, but again, it's just about getting them on the roadmap to begin with and then that work to be completed, which for a ship like this would easily take more than a year to get into the game. So with the major ship maintenance discussed, let's go ahead and move on to another ship with a much needed feature. So there are still questions remaining about how many of the smaller ships will be able to make it to Pyro from Stanton. When it comes to the logistics of moving between Pyro and Stanton, there are still many questions left that need answers, or at least if they have been answered, are not known by many in the community, as when I reached out both on my Discord and within the org I'm in, things were kind of unclear. Traversal back and forth was easily one of the things that most were unsure of. How will jump drives even work? How will beds on ships work if we're expected to crew more multiplayer ships? So let's say the ship owner logs out and a group of you are all together on that ship expecting to carry out a multiplayer week of being out together. How does that work if everyone logs back in and the owner's not playing? We know how it works now, only the owner can log out of the ship. Now, it is because every ship will not have a jump drive that we wonder how smaller fighters like the Gladius might make it into Pyro, or maybe even other smaller ships like the starter ships. Will new players not be able to traverse the jump points? Will we have to decide which system to call home and just log in there and not be able to travel between the 2 on our own if we don't have the right ship or know the right people to travel with? There's so many questions, but one ship can answer some of these, and that is the Anvil Liberator. The Liberator is a double-decked ship allowing for maximum space utilization, having some ships on a lower deck while others can be up top with landing for 3 vehicles or less depending on the size configuration. The ship has 400 SCU of cargo, which is very generous, along with manually operated size 5 repeaters and dual automated defensive turrets with 4 bespoke missile launchers for further protection. The ship has 16 jump seats to transport quite a few passengers and has plenty of storage and suit lockers to citizens that can arrive geared as well. Overall, the ship is very much needed and another that is not in production, although with it not having difficult tech features such as refueling or rearming, it seems like a ship that could move through the production pipeline at a reasonable rate once it's started. Now we have 2 more features that are very much needed to make Pyro a sustainable place to live and play from, and the next ship can do both of these things and should be something we see, I'd guess, within a year from Pyro's release, and that's optimistically. So these last 2 items that we need to talk about in terms of what I see as needed features in Pyro are mining refineries and a tier 1 medical bed. And both of these features are possible depending on how you set up your Galaxy's modules. So let's start with medical. So as of right now, if you receive a tier 1 medical injury, the only place that you can heal those are at an actual facility and not any of the in-game ships. These ships currently in-game can only heal a tier 2 or 3 injury, so a tier 1 medical bed on a ship is very much needed. Besides the Galaxy, the only other 2 ships that can so far heal a tier 1 injury will be the Apollo and the Endeavor. neither of which are on the roadmap with work scheduled. The RSI Galaxy is also not on the roadmap, but on a recent Star Citizen Live with the vehicle team, they mentioned their plan to work on the RSI Polaris and then go backward to the Galaxy and Apollo because they will be able to reuse those larger assets down the line, and the Polaris is currently on the roadmap in early development stages, so at least we know the plan and where they stand. The Galaxy, as far as I see it though, is still over a year away, which means if Pyro goes out as planned sometime between spring to summer of 2024, Tier 1 injuries will need to be taken care of somewhere. The Ruin Station supposedly has some shady medical facility, so that could end up being the only place in Pyro to begin with where those injuries can be healed, which once again would be quite an inconvenience. The issue of a refinery does seem to definitely be on the devs' minds, as they have been in the early planning stages of how ship refineries work, as listed on the roadmap, and as touched upon at the Star Citizen Live vehicle team episode that I mentioned earlier. Now, it's good to see it being worked on, but it will be even better to see if they add the Galaxy or the Expanse to the roadmap, so we can see that work being done. Now, besides the refinery and medical modules, the RSI Galaxy will also have a cargo module, and it has a nice sized hangar in the back of the ship where extra small vehicle types like the Pisces will be able to dock, making the Galaxy one of the best all-purpose ships that will be in the game and very handy. Now, there is one more ship I want to mention that will cover both a needed feature and some exploration features which are also needed for Pyro, and that is the MISC Odyssey, which is a highly anticipated ship that is going to make being self-sufficient a truly great thing for Pyro, with its ability to capture raw materials and then turn them into profit or fuel. The Odyssey also has a Tier 2 medical bed, 252 SCU of cargo space, and 3 remote turrets with size 5 guns, thick shields, and missile racks, not to mention its own top hangar to carry smaller ships, making this better than the Carrack as that ship currently stands. Once again, the MISC Odyssey is not yet in development or currently on the roadmap, and I imagine that after the RSI push is done, the MISC push would come after, so they could use assets from this on other ships like the Expanse. And there are some ships that are currently out in the verse now that are lacking gameplay features that could really help fill out some of those desired features we all want to help make Pyro stand out in terms of exploratory gameplay. Deep scanning and data running can be handled by the MSR and the Drake Herald, not to mention the Terrapin. Now, those are features that players are dying to have in their hands, and with the ships already in the verse, these seem like some likely places to begin with adding something that would require less work than having to add the feature along with the ships. We might have some of engineering in the game as well, which we should learn more about with this year's CitizenCon, so hopefully those long-term missions and exploration can really come into their own in Pyro, which could make ships like the Carrack and 890 Jump have more to do and be something people want to use, but there's still questions there as well. So while we're on things to consider, CIG might just throw in some temporary solutions to these problems if they are not ready to go live when Pyro is finally here. Now, similar to how we now have cargo just magically appear, we could continue to have repairing and rearming just happen and be at places where it might be stripped away later, such as the new underground facilities or even random outposts in the game like we've seen from that CitizenCon 2951 footage. Further down the road, I could see some player settlements or org settlements being places to stop at, as the reputation of said outpost is known and grows. But early on, when Pyro releases, I think it's safe to say that we can expect some easy temporary features to be folded into other things, and might even see something like the Tier 2 medical bed on the 890 Jump or Carrack being able to treat Tier 1 injuries until more ships are added into the game that can treat those. Another temporary solution we might see are armor traders or vendors at random outposts, instead of relying on player shops or player trade networks like we could get with the BMM. There are so many possibilities with gear that this should be one of the easier things to figure out. However, it still might not be as convenient as we currently have it, and nor should it be. Okay, and so that's going to do it for this look at Pyro and the ships and features that I feel are needed. It's pretty easy to see that with all of these features that we the players see as a need, that there simply is not enough time for them to all be completed before it releases, and I know that Pyro is headed for release this time next year. It doesn't mean we're going to get it because there's still plenty of time for things to go wrong, but I will keep a healthy dose of hopium going until we see or hear otherwise. I do truly hope that it doesn't release without at least many of these features being thought about, but CIG should have definitely already planned for these things as well as other items that we ourselves do not know or maybe understand. What I don't want to see happen is a bunch of us get out there and there was no thought on how we rearm or where we receive tier 1 medical care, but as with 318 we did find ourselves being guinea pigs and highlighting various issues that the devs had either not seen coming or just did not have the time to get in place before the tech went live. One thing I think we can say for certain is that Pyro will be great and a disaster at the same time, and there will be many issues discovered, and hopefully we can figure out workarounds so the experience does not come crashing down around us and we're not able to play. Anyway, remember to be kind to your fellow gamer. With Pyro is going to come some real frontier gameplay that I hope we're all ready for, and stay positive, citizens.